I can just close my eyes and just imagine I can hear them smiling, laughing, and having a good time, just all gathered around.
Folks, if you're not familiar with where we're at, this is the shelter house at Cranks in Harlan County. If you are familiar, then you know exactly where we're at. But we've done a couple of videos talking to folks about their life here in Appalachia, growing up in the mountains of places like Harlan County. Somebody I've wanted to do a video of talking about their childhood and their life growing up here. I've always loved listening to their stories, and I have got them to agree to share some of those stories with you guys, and that is my wife. You're going to tell, this is actually right here where you grew up.
Yeah, it's not far from.
So you probably got a lot of memories going on right now, don't you?
All. Yes.
You're going to share some with us. You grew up a coal miner's daughter. 30 years, more than 30 years he spent in the mines.
Yeah, close to 40 years.
Yep. We did a video on him actually, and I'll probably put a link to that in this video so you can listen to him talk about it. But what kind of memories are these bringing back to you, sweetie?
I'm just overflowed with emotion and memories. Every time I come down here, just so many memories of being here. This is where I came and played. This is where I rode my bicycle. This is where I learned to drive. First time Dad ever let me out in the car, it was right in here. That road would go up there and it would turn, come back around. None of this fence was here. And yeah, the first time that he let me loose was on
the shelter house was there, of course,
this road, and I would go around here and back over and over. Then he started letting me out, and I would go down towards the lake, and he'd let me come back and park it back here. But I've played in the creek. I've caught crawdad out of this creek.
You did what?
I have caught crawdad out of the creek. That was one of my.
This creek right here.
Yeah, flipping those rocks up and catching and playing with crawdads. So yeah.
Goodness.
I went fishing the lake. I grew up down here, so we had lots of fun going to the lake.
Well, you're quite the tomboy, wouldn't you?
Swimming and fishing all the time, almost every day in the summer, mostly of the weekends because Dad worked in the coal mines. But we'd always have friends and neighbors that we was always out playing, riding bicycles. Just,
always outside.
Yes.
Didn't have any internet, did you?
Most all my birthdays were under this shelter house.
Oh, you want to walk up here?
Let's go.
Watch out for snakes.
I think that I'll go across this.
Yeah. You want to avoid the weeds and go across there.
Yes, it's not as weedy right here.
Yeah, I think I'll take my chances in the weeds.
Oh, well, I didn't see that.
Oh, you did.
Okay.
I thought you grew up here.
Like I said, this wasn't here. So, but yes, this it would go up here, and of course, I'm sure everybody knows this is where the beginning of Poke Salad Festival first began. It was here. There was a stage up here.
Yeah, I might be
and
able
this
to find
is where
old
it began, and you can see there's
very
very old pictures, and that would be up here, and the people would be all the way lined up down that way with all kinds of things they was doing. But yeah, I used to drive this over and over again until I got the feel of the car, and he'd let me loose up on the lake road and back. But let's see, try to go up here to the shelter house.
Had a lot of friends here growing up, didn't you?
I had a lot of friends here, and
we're still good friends.
I'm still very close with a lot of friends.
Was that
still
a couple
live
you ran into
around
at the
in
Poke
the
Salad
area.
Festival?
What?
Was that a couple of your friends you ran into at the Poke Salad Festival?
Yes.
From up
yes.
here?
Childhood friends. I grew up real close by me, and still good friends.
Wait a minute, I gotta look over here. I can just imagine little Miss Coyote over here catching crawdads.
There was a lot more water in it then. I don't know why that there's not a lot in it.
That's probably got to do with
I mean,
time
it
of
wasn't
year
a whole lot, but there was definitely.
Yeah.
And there was a little concrete bridge up there. It looks like it may have failed, but it would go across, and there was like a concrete spring over there. And just, this was a fun place to play. The steps are still good. They had done a lot of work at at fixing it up at one time, and it looked really good and really nice. It had electric. This is where, yes, all my birthdays, my brother's birthdays, Mom's birthday, Dad's birthday, anniversaries, was all here. I mean, look at this. It's so peaceful and so beautiful. And this was like part of this was like, I lived down not far from here, so we'd come here, and this is where we'd all get together.
I was asking, you was a middle child, wasn't you? But you was the only girl.
Right, yes. When my mother, my grandmother, and my siblings were still alive, and we was under here having a great time. Just a lot of memories.
You've lost your mom and both of your brothers since then.
Yes. It could hold a lot of people under here. Get a lot of gathering up there.
I bet it was pretty noisy with the you wild youngins.
Well, while they was fixing the food, or what they didn't bring, you know, grilling and stuff and preparing stuff, and you know, we'd be out down here playing. Mostly in the creek, needless to say. Lord, I wouldn't catch one of those for nothing now. I can just close my eyes and just imagine I can hear them smiling, laughing, and having a good time, just all gathered around.
Believe it or not, you was a real tomboy, wasn't you?
I guess I was. I was trying to keep up with my brothers, and all my cousins was boys. So I only had like one, maybe two cousins that was girls. Hardly ever got to see them. And I went squirrel hunting with Dad.
You went squirrel? I love these stories, folks.
It was, I had to convince him that I was really wanting to go squirrel hunting, and I did. I wanted to go hunting with my dad. And I've got so many memories of him. He'd have those squirrels in his bag, on his back, and have his squirrel gun broke down across his back, and he'd tell me, now you gotta be quiet if I take you. You can't be in there making a bunch of noise. I was dead quiet. So I got to go with him a few times. But,
now folks, I've got to say something here. I know there's sensibilities that might be offended by squirrel hunting, but there's not many people does that these days down here in the mountains. But that's how we survived and eat.
Oh, my dad! My dad loved eating squirrel.
And I got news for you guys. That chicken patty you eat at McDonald's, it was alive one time too. It just didn't have as nice a life as a squirrel had in the woods.
Yeah.
So you know that's just part of history and historically how we stayed alive.
I even know what ginseng looks like.
Oh, you do?
Dad, while he was in the mountain this time of the year, he'd show me what ginseng looked like. I know what that looks like. And that gala root, bloodroot, know what that looks like.
Wow.
So do I get in the mountains? I'd love to, but I've got so much on my plate. I can't get out and around outdoors. But yeah, and I learned to fish, all that from my daddy.
Wow. It never ceases to amaze me when I hear these stories of
And of course, I do know how to dress those fish too, and the squirrel. Unfortunately, yes.
You know, I
Yes.
tried to dress a squirrel one time, but I couldn't get that little critter to put that shirt on.
That's a good way to say it. But anyway,
I couldn't get him to put the shirt on.
I was just glued on whatever he was doing. I don't know why. I just was drawn to just whatever he was doing. I thought was cool.
So you traveled this very road on your little bicycle?
Yes. I wasn't allowed to come down to the shelter house from where I lived at because, well, there was things come, you know.
Yeah.
A little girl don't just ride her bicycle down all by herself up down the road, so I wasn't allowed to go. But I had my marks where how far I could ride a bike or how far out we'd go to play.
The thing about these stories, reason I've always liked to hear you tell them, is I'm amazed at how girlyish you are now. You're just a girlyish little Southern belle, you're just as ladylike as could be. And I'm amazed at what a tomboy. You know, I've had witnesses tell me this is all true, that she was like that. Squirrel hunting, crawdad, catching tomboy when she was little. I'm just amazed.
All those kids did. All the girls did. I grew up with and played with. That's just, you know, I had to keep up with them, you know.
Yep.
I walked to Sunday school and the church sat right in here. they took a lot of houses out and redid it when the road come through. It set right up in there somewhere.
Wow.
But yeah, a lot of memories. But things were more simpler then and more easier, seemed like. Times was different.
Folks, if you want to hear some more of my wife's stories about growing up in the hills of Harlan County as a coal miner's daughter, let us know, because she's got a bunch of good ones.
I sure do. I got bunches.
Hey, thank y'all for hanging out with us up here at the Shelter House and going back in time with us to my wife's childhood. We sure appreciate you. What do we say at the end of these videos?
Bye.
Bye. God bless y'all. We love you.